Hey everybody, Jeff Cohen here from Seller Labs, joined with Brandon Checketts from Seller Labs. Brandon, how are you?
Good morning, good to be here, thanks.
We are going to cover a hot new topic on Amazon, something that I wouldn't say is a surprise, right? We kind of knew that it was coming. The big news is that headline search is now available to sellers on Seller Central. And want to kind of address kind of what that is, who it will and who it will not work for, and answer questions that you guys have. So if you have questions, write them in the box. Go ahead and share this video, and we're going to jump right into it. So Brandon, let's just kind of start off. What is headline search, and why do I care?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you are, in a lot of cases, I'm going to compare it to sponsored products because I think a lot of sellers are already familiar with sponsored product ads because those have been a feature available for a while now. The headline search ads is a different ad placement on the Amazon.com website. And so as an Amazon buyer, if you go to Amazon.com and you search for a product like an apple slicer, you'll see at the very, very top of the page in some instances, above the products that are displayed there, above the sponsored products ads that are displayed there, there's a banner that goes across the top of the ad. It fills up the better part of the width of the page, and that's the headline search ad that we're talking about. It contains exactly 3 products, as well as like a little logo and a headline.
Yeah, so and what's important about that is that ad placement was not available to sellers on Seller Central. You had to have a Vendor Central or a Vendor Express account to get that ad placement. So that's the big news, right? Like this has now opened up that ad placement to all sellers. So it's going to beg the question right off the top of the bat, which is, do I care about this placement? And like, why should I be excited about this?
Well, there's a couple of things I would point out. Number one, you just started with that is you've been able to get these placements so far over the last year or so if you just open the Vendor Express accounts. And so like it's not brand new news that it's available. It's just news that it's available for sellers without opening that external AMS or Vendor Express account. So this is a position that's been available for a long time for vendors. Sellers have found a way to use it over the past year by just creating a Vendor Express account. But now you don't need to even go through that sort of process. It's just available natively inside Seller Central now, which kind of opens it up to a lot more sellers because previously the ones that were using it were only the sellers that were really knew how to go through this process and open the Vendor Express account and all that. So it opens it to a wider audience being just available in Seller Central.
Awesome. So why is this? Or maybe it's me. Was I frozen?
I think we're both good now.
Okay. So Brandon, why do I care as a seller? Is this cheaper placement? I mean, what's the...
So a couple impacts. Number one is if you never went through that process, through the vendor process, it's now available to you without having to jump through those sort of loopholes or go through that sort of back door, I guess, to get into the system. So it's obviously like a more straightforward in order to do that.
Yeah.
The other thing that's going to impact sellers regardless is like now it's available to all sellers and it's kind of front and center. It's not like hidden in this other system. And so that means there's going to be more people using it, more taking advantage of it. So if you're not doing that, like this goes back to I think what Jeff and I have talked about for a long time is if you're on the cutting edge, you're ahead of everybody else. And if you just don't progress and you don't keep progressing, then you're going to lag behind. And this is one of those areas like you were ahead and now you're kind of in the realm of the pack with everybody else because everybody essentially has this placement now.
Yeah, so most sellers that were using this placement were seeing a lot of success in getting inexpensive ads and inexpensive clicks. So this is a great question. It's a great kind of direction for us to go. Let's talk about setting up a campaign and strategies because it doesn't really work like sponsored ads. So let's kind of talk a little bit about campaign setup. I guess let's start with what are the requirements to have this? Because you have to have products, certain types of products and stuff. So what are the requirements for headline search ads to run an ad? And then let's talk a little bit about strategies for setting them up.
Yeah, excellent. So I can think of a couple important things that's going to make it so that's only you have to have set up your account properly in order to do this for a couple of respects. Number one, the headline search ads are only available to brands, the properly registered brands through the brand registry 2.0 that have a brand existing and that have products associated with that brand. So that's the number one.
So I want to correct you. If you had brand registry 1.0, it's still available. So you need brand registry, period.
Sorry, you're correct on that. So I've tried it with the 2.0, so it does work for 1.0 folks as well. So, or the old one. So you're correct, but you do have to have the brand registry done, and the only products you can advertise on it are those that are associated with your brand in the brand registry. So you can't, if you're reselling products, you can't create headline search ads for those unless you've gone through that process of getting the manufacturer's approval and are properly brand registered for those. So that's probably the first significant thing to make sure we realize about those. The second one is you have to have at least 3 products within that brand. So if you have just a single product, you can't run a headline search ad with just a single product. You have to have a minimum of 3 products in order to.
Now that can be a variation, right?
Yeah. So we actually discovered you can put in 3 variations of the same products. I don't think that's Amazon's intent behind that. And so if you go through their interface to just select products, it doesn't let you select individual variations, but you can put in those individual ASINs and it will let you do it. I don't think that's Amazon's intent. And Amazon really would like to see 3 kind of separate and related products from the same brand there.
Awesome. So a couple of people are asking, so that means that basically the headline search and Central Vendor Express actually works a little differently than the one in Seller Central.
Yeah, you're correct. So on the Vendor Express side through AMS, you could essentially advertise any product on Amazon at all. So there still is perhaps a reason to keep doing that, because once you have a Vendor Express account, you could actually advertise any product on the platform.
Yeah. So thanks, Frank, for pointing that out. The one thing that I want everyone to kind of understand is that Amazon's moving to a mono brand platform, right? So they want to create, for lack of a better term, brand central, not Seller Central or not Vendor Central. They want brand central. They want one place for all of this to occur. So this is all about creating parity between the two. Now, if I have a Vendor Central or Vendor Express account and I've been running ads, do I need to stop and start using Seller Central?
I would encourage you probably not to at this point. We know you definitely don't want to run both because you'll be competing against yourself, right? So if you're bidding for some things through the AMS side and you create things with the same keywords on the Seller Central side, Amazon has no way of knowing that that's the same account, and so you will effectively be competing against yourself on those. So you definitely want to make sure you kind of don't do the same keywords in both of them, because you're just going to drive your prices up.
Yeah, and so we knew that, but we also confirmed that with Amazon last night just to double check. So if you are running, don't feel like you can run ads on both platforms to see which one performs better, because as Brandon kind of said earlier, it makes a lot of sense. There's only one headline search. So if you're competing for that headline search, you're actually competing against yourself, and you will be bidding yourself up. So yep. Brandon, headline search, if I've never done headline search works a little differently than sponsored ads. So can you speak a little bit to the campaign setup process, selecting your keywords and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I think the campaign setup is a little bit different because it requires a few more inputs from you as a seller. So I mentioned that you have to select 3 products on that. So you have to have a minimum of 3 products in order to create the ad. You can add more to it than that will show up as selections when the user clicks on your brand. The other things that are components of that ad are you have to upload a brand image. Now, Amazon says that you can use one of your product images as sort of like the main image on the ad. So you have to have an image there, and you also have to get up to 50 characters to place a headline there. And so you can change and adjust the copy on that to make a more compelling sales pitch in that 50 characters. And so once you go through that process of uploading, you're creating your ad, you select your products.
Let me stop you really quick. Yep. When you're creating the headline ad, make sure that you're not making claims. Like these are the things that are in sponsored ads, you don't have to create an ad, right? You just give them a keyword. On headline, you have to actually create the headline for the ad. And so Amazon is actually going to take that through a review process, which I know you're going to get to. But that's a big part of what Amazon's going to be looking for at the review process is what that 50 characters of text looks like and what you're trying to say and whether you're violating their terms of service.
Yep. So you have 50 characters there, which is not a lot because it has to be displayed on all devices. But there's definitely very strict content rules around that. That goes to Amazon's team for approval before your ad runs. You'll notice as you go to create an ad and you start typing stuff in the box, if you use capital letters, like it'll prompt you and say you can only capitalize brand or proper nouns in the first word. So it walks you through some of the obvious ones that they can detect, but it does go to a human person that's going to either approve or reject each ad. Right.
So if you said 100% guaranteed, your ad's going to probably get rejected, right? So if you start making claims or something like that.
Yep. So it's better
So you've created your headline. You've picked your 3 products. I actually noticed in setting my campaign up last night, you could select more than 3 products. So I don't know if it's going to rotate them through or what it's going to do.
Well, what it does with that is the top 3 products you add to that are the ones that are shown up in the ad. And then if you go to and click on somebody's headline search ad, but don't click on the products, click on the brand name or the headline. It actually takes you to a page on Amazon that just lists the products that are advertised, and so that's where those other products show up. Is if you click on the banner part of the ad that's not one of the specific 3 products, the user will go to a page where it just lists all the products that are advertised on there for that brand.
So if I'm a seller and I have 3 products and the 3 products are similar to each other, that it makes sense that they should be in an ad, and then each one of those products has 3 variations. What I might want to do is put the 3 products across the top and then actually add the additional variations underneath so that when somebody lands on the page, they can actually see all of the products I have available.
Yep, that's a strategy you can use, and you can try that with the variations and without them and see if it performs one way or not. So,
right. So within a campaign, Brandon, you can create multiple ads, and then you can kind of run but you're not bidding against each other.
You basically, I don't think you can create multiple ads. You just change the ad over time. So,
okay.
They don't have the ability to track that. This is where, so we'll get to reporting in a minute, but the reporting on this is not as robust as it is on sponsored products. So,
all right. So Tom's kind of asking us to get a little deeper into why you should not switch at this time from the Vendor Central AMS. So to Seller Central. And so one, I think it's up to you, right? Like you've got to make the decision of what you want to do. I think that what Brandon was trying to say is that the features on Vendor Central, Vendor Express are still a little bit more robust than what they've currently moved over to Seller Central, right?
Yeah. So a couple of specific things, like they don't have the bid estimates on the Seller Central side yet. And also, like when you move stuff, you're going to have to, like, all your historic data is going to get lost. And so there's value in having that historic data. If you were starting a brand new one, I might suggest starting it on the Seller Central side. It kind of depends. So maybe the trade-offs here would be the AMS portal has got more, you probably got existing history there for one thing. The interface there is slightly improved because it's got the bid adjustments and the things like that. And one thing I'll touch on a little bit is we've actually got our Ignite product. We've got our software tools that actually work on the Vendor Central side right now, and those don't work yet on the seller side. So if you're using some of those external tools, including our Ignite beta, that's only functional on the AMS side yet and not functional on Seller Central.
Awesome. So let's just kind of review a couple of things because I see some stuff coming in. A couple people are saying you can't do this on Seller Central. They're saying, I don't see this on Seller Central. So can you kind of talk to, so we have actually seen it on multiple accounts that it's available, but it may not be available to everybody. So the first question, if you're not, where would you see it? Okay. And then if you don't see it, what might you need to ask yourself as to why you're not seeing it?
Yeah, so we know that Amazon has started rolling this out yesterday. We've seen it on multiple accounts, probably about 50% of accounts that have it right now, and we expect over the weekend they'll probably roll out to most everybody. trying to get some confirmation from Amazon on when it'll be fully done, but they don't usually, like, it's not tagged beta, it's tagged new, so it is coming out to everybody.
Yeah.
So
you go into Seller Central, you click on Campaign Manager, and what are you going to see?
Yeah, you go up to, once you log into Seller Central, you click on Advertising at the top, click on Campaign Manager. That's where your sponsored products have been. And there's a separate tab there now next to sponsored products that says Headline Search. That's got a little new tag next to it. I wish we could do a screenshot in this video format. We can't do it here.
Yeah,
but our blog post will have that. We'll put it on there.
Yeah, so if you look at the blog post, we kind of show you where that's at. And then, so the question is if I'm not seeing it, because some people might have joined us late. So if I'm not seeing it, why am I not seeing it? Would I see it if I don't have brand registry? Yeah,
there's a couple of reasons you might not see it. Number one, it might not even be rolled out to your account yet. The second one be if you don't have brand registry completed for any brands yet, you may not see it in that case. So
okay. So that kind of covers that. I think we've kind of covered that pretty in depth. And then one other person's asked again, so let's just cover it one last time. Can you advertise on both Seller Central and Vendor and the vendor side, Vendor Express or Vendor Central, for headline ads?
The technical answer is yes, you can. The practical answer is you shouldn't advertise the same products or the same keywords on both because you're competing against yourself.
Yeah. So, we want to kind of keep this pretty short, answer your questions. Brandon, is there anything else that you had on kind of your talking list of things that you thought were important for us to get through to kind of share with everybody about this exciting change?
Yeah, so I think one thing I need to talk through, and I probably didn't mention this yet, but there is, so all the headline search ads are based on keywords. So you do similar to sponsored products, how you put in keywords. The same sort of match types with broad phrase and exact match types on them. But a couple important differentiators as far as we look forward to in optimizing campaigns and really figuring out how to tweak them. Headline search ads do not have negative keywords. And so there's the potential to put in broad match keywords that include a lot of inappropriate stuff. And then along those same lines, they don't have a user search terms report available for them. And so you can't even really tell if you're wasting a lot of money. So the important point I want to bring up here is with sponsored products, we can kind of create broad ones and kind of narrow down and whittle away the unnecessary stuff, and we get detail that tells us where there's wasted ad spend at and what user search terms are not working, and we can sort of whittle back and go through the strategy of making more exact keywords. But on headline search, you don't get that reporting ability. And so it's better on headline search to start with exact things and kind of build up. In fact, we're working on some stuff, and you can use your existing sponsored product campaigns to help you pick the right keywords, the more of the exact and phrase keywords, so that you're not bidding on inappropriate things because they're just buried under the keywords, and you don't get the detail to even know if there's wasted ad spend on the headline search ads.
Gotcha. So Brandon, so right now, Ignite does not have functionality for headline search ads on Seller Central. There's a beta version for the Vendor Central side, but not Seller Central. If I have Ignite and I want to use Seller Central headline search ads, what data could I use? How could I use the data in there to help me figure that out?
That's great, because this is where it really comes down to like what you can actually use and what you can do. So what I would recommend doing that is set up a sponsored product ad campaign and work to the point where you feel like you've got the keywords sort of nailed down, and where the keywords, where you don't have a lot of wasted ad spend, and where the keywords tend to be more, you tend to have worked through the process a little bit, going from broad over towards more phrase and exact match ones. And then once you've sort of spent some time on your sponsored product side, really learning what those ideal keywords are, to go into the sponsored product thing in Ignite, and then filter it by the keywords that are performing the best, those that have the lowest ACoS, that have greater than maybe 10 clicks in a week or something like that, the ones that are kind of relevant, and then find that list of keywords and match types and use those for headline search ads.
Gotcha. Now, if I don't have Ignite and I just have a tool like Scope, or I have some other reverse ASIN tool, how could I use that data to help me create ads?
Yeah. So what I would probably find in those cases would be to take all of the stuff that's the best performing stuff for which you know your product is extremely relevant and has high conversion rates. High conversion rates is usually indicated by, a good position. So if you have a high position for that, those are the ones that you know are most likely targeted towards your products. And I would create probably phrase or exact match keywords for your headline search ad with those. I would avoid the broad ones because they tend to be too broad and you're going to have a lot of wasted ad spend in that.
So essentially what I could do if I had scope, if I had scope and I didn't have Ignite, I could use scope to look at my ads, to look at my product and see what ASINs I'm ranking for. See what keywords I'm ranking for. Or I could actually do that for my competitor's product if I don't have that momentum, right? So if I look at my competitor's product and they're ranking really well for a term, I could use that as my research to determine what type of phrase or exact keyword I want to use for sponsored ads.
Yeah, and I would keep it to like the ones that are highly relevant to your product. So I would avoid the ones that are more generic, like Father's Day or like really broad. I would tend to focus more. The ones that are going to be higher converting are those ones that are more focused keywords and less general.
All right, so let's talk about one really exciting part of headline search ads that we haven't touched on. And that is the ability to actually directly target your competitor and their brand.
Yeah, I mean, where are you going with that one? I'm not sure where you're leading.
So I set up a campaign last night for a client, and what I was able to do was actually pick the keywords for their brand, and so their competitors have brands that are recognizable and searched on Amazon, and I can actually target those keywords. And if Amazon finds me relevant for those, or if they're not bidding on that, I can actually show up on top of their products with mine.
Yeah. So you're saying if you're Nike, you can bid on Reebok.
So I'm not going to go Nike and Reebok because Nike and Reebok probably have some type of lawyers that'll come after you. But if you're kind of an off brand and you're competing against other off brands that aren't as organized as a Nike or Reebok and Under Armour, you can actually go after their brand names as some of your keyword terms, your exact match terms or a phrase term. And if people are looking for their brand name and your product name, you can target your ad to be showing above their product.
Yeah, you can. That's definitely a possibility. I think that what would happen is that once they wise up to that, they'll start running it, and they'll probably have higher conversion rates, and they'll be able to do it more effectively than you.
Yeah, but jump on it. All right, so this question came up. We talked about it earlier. We talked about needing brand registry. It does not, from what we can tell, it does not matter if you have brand registry 1.0 or 2.0. It's just brand registry in general. But what we did notice within Seller Central is that the product has to be part of the brand, whereas in Vendor Central, it doesn't have to be part of the brand.
Yep.
You could actually, in Vendor Central, you could actually put your competitors' products on your ad if you wanted, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, you can bid on Apple iPods, and if you don't even sell them on Vendor Central, which would be silly, of course, but you don't have to have any relationship with the market, with the seller at all, or with the product at all.
Yeah, let me just kind of look through here and see. Okay, so
we didn't mention there is a $10 daily budget requirement on headline search, which is higher than it is on sponsored products. I think sponsored product has a $1 daily budget requirement, and so it's a little bit more expensive to run them. $10 a day is probably a starting point anyway for most people, but that is a thing that's going to cost you at least $10 a day in ads to do that.
Gotcha. So I think we've covered most of the questions. Don't want to drag you guys out. Appreciate you jumping on. We do have a blog post that's related to this. You can comment on the blog post. We'll go ahead and kind of re-put that into the show notes here. And we'd be happy to stay on and answer questions on the blog or on Facebook. And we thank you guys. And as we get more information, we will keep coming to you guys with more information and sharing it with you as soon as we have it. So everyone take care.
Bye.